What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of Sales Stories in Real Life. I'm your host, Alex Bruschi, and this is the show where professional salespeople share their experiences of times that they were in the buyer's seat and they were being sold. Today, we have a very special guest. He is the founder and CEO of Impaxs Marketing, which helps companies to turn their video content into a 24/7 sales rep for your business. Welcome to the show, Alex B Sheridan. I hear you had some pretty impactful circumstances when you started taking in your first video content. How'd that go?
Well, dude, thanks for having me on the show, the Alex and Alex show. Let's go, dude. For me, man, before I actually started creating video content, I was a consumer, like a lot of us, right? So for me, I was in B2B sales. And so I was driving to and from work and on the road and seeing clients and things like that. And, I wanted to perfect my craft. I wanted to get better at sales, be able to impact my clients in a better way, make more money, all that type of stuff. So I was like, how am I going to consume information on the road? Well, audio and video while you're driving, obviously, and podcasting and things like that is a pretty good way to do it. So I tuned into, for some reason, I went to YouTube. I don't know if podcasting was just like, maybe there wasn't what I wanted back then or what it was, but for some reason I tuned into YouTube and I would just watch salespeople. I mean, I was driving, so I was just listening to the audio, right? But it was playing on YouTube. And I would just YouTube stuff like how to close more deals, how to open a sales, cold call, how to run a meeting effectively. How do you overcome this objection? And what I noticed is that there was probably 2 or 3 key people that I started listening to day in and day out. And what I didn't really notice, but subconsciously that was happening, is these people were building high levels of trust, credibility, and likability with me. And I was obviously tuning in, subscribing, listening more. Occasionally I would buy an audiobook or a book from them, like to consume more. One of them I actually even reached out to and actually just cold called and left a message. And he actually called me back and he was like, I can't believe you just called me out of the blue. No one's ever does that, right? And that was my dedication to just getting better at my craft. But what it taught me from a consumer standpoint was, wow, you can really get people bought in without ever actually meeting you in the first place. Because I was so used to cold calling and knocking on doors and going to meetings and introducing myself and going to networking events, and all that stuff's fine. But at the end of the day, it's always a cold introduction when you first sit down with that person. What I realized with video is I'm actually getting to know these people. They're building so much credibility because they're providing a ton of value consistently, day in and day out. They just literally were there to teach me and make me a better sales rep. So by the time I was ready to buy a book or an audiobook or subscribe to a channel, it was a no-brainer. It was going to be those people because they had been educating me along the way the entire time. And so that light bulb kind of went off for me. I didn't do a ton with it. And I started making a few videos on YouTube, and then I quit because I didn't see great results. I didn't have a great strategy, and that was that. And so a few years later, I decided I wanted to start my own side hustle, my own business, and I was going to do sales consulting. And then I was like, man, I remember what impact video had on me and how I could basically, get people sold on me and the credibility and the trust and the likability before I even talked to them. And I started putting out videos on LinkedIn, and long story short, prospects started to come to me and they started to DM me and email me and comment on my stuff and say, hey, you just put out this video talking about social selling and using video to do this, this, and this. I'm curious, like we need to start doing that for our company. Can we set up a time to talk? And once that started happening, then it was like game over. I was like, there's no way I'm not going to go down this path when I clearly can see this was in 2019. More things are going digital, obviously. I thought LinkedIn was going to be on the rise. It definitely did. I thought more people would be social selling and using video, and everything went up. And obviously COVID expedited that by about 5 to 7 years where we were going anyways. And so once those light bulbs went off, I was like, I'm going to help people turn their video content into a 24/7 sales rep. And that's where we're at today.
I love it. So let's break that down for a second, because you really did the full 180 where you were consumer, not only for a little bit, but for quite a while, it seems. And then it seems like you kind of dabbled in it a little bit and then really went into it for real. So what would you say were the 2 differences, right? When you were a consumer and then when you ultimately went headfirst into video content? Because anyone who doesn't live under a LinkedIn rock has seen your video content by now.
Well, I mean, consuming is great, right? Because you can learn and, take in information. And then hopefully the whole goal with that, just like a book or a course or anything, is that you're going to take action. Like a lot of people consume and they don't take any action, and that's a problem, right? And they just go to the next thing. And what happens is that the consumption actually becomes the crutch. Like, I'm just going to watch another video. I'm going to listen to one more podcast. I'm going to take one more course. I'm going to download one more, and then what happens is that kind of becomes a mini addiction, and it becomes a barrier between that person taking action and them not taking action because they think, well, I'll just listen to something else one more time. And they justify it in their mind because they're like, well, it's a positive thing. I'm not just sitting around like watching Netflix and eating potato chips. I'm actually learning. I'm teaching myself something. Yes. But if you don't apply it, what are you really doing with it? What is the ROI of the information or the stuff that you're consuming if you're not actually using it? So at a certain point, for me personally, I'm like, I'll learn stuff and consume stuff here and there and just study and watch how people behave and buyer behavior. But at a certain point, if you don't put yourself out there and actually take action, you're never going to do anything with it. So, it's like being in the back seat, like somebody else is driving. Sure, you can consume the views and take a look out the window and you can enjoy a lot of things. And you might even learn about the ways to get around, right? You might even learn the quicker ways to get there and shortcuts and, when to speed up and when to slow down. But you're never going to get the vantage point and the learning lessons that you have that a driver would get. So at some point, you got to get in the driver's seat and take control of your business, of your career, of your life. And that's what I did when I started putting out content. It's harder, obviously, because you can't, when you're consuming content, you can sit back and kick back and just consume. You've got no risk. There's no uncomfortability. You don't take any chances. No one hears you if you, somehow messed up. Like there's none of that. But when you get outside of your comfort zone and you're willing to actually create and play on the field instead of just sit in the stand, in the stands and eat popcorn and drink Pepsi, you've got an opportunity to put yourself in the top 1% and really just create a lot of opportunities for yourself, both within business and within personal.
I love that analogy of being in the car and you're sitting in the back seat and you never actually learn until you're driving. So let's play off that example for a second. Let's say that somebody's watching this and they feel like they're in the back seat right now and they want to get in the driver's seat, but something is in their way, whether it's, nervous to put yourself out there, not sure what to talk about. Like, what are some action steps that you'd recommend for someone in those shoes right now?
So this is a big one, man. Like people are scared to put themselves out there because most of the time, 99% of the time, it's because they're worried what other people are going to think. They're worried that, what if it fails? What if it doesn't perform? What if I look like an idiot? What if I put something out there and then someone comments like, hey, that's wrong. That's not even the right, like you should think about it like this. What will my colleagues say? What will my boss think? What if, there's so many things that we just run all these things through our head. Now, most of the time, they're all not going to happen anyways. And what we have to realize is that nobody really cares about you that much anyways. Like I used to think before I started my business that it was going to be so cool when I got my business to a certain point and was able to leave my full-time job. And it was cool for me, but nobody else really cares. Whether you fail horribly or whether you succeed and win big, nobody really cares. And once you actually once you let that settle in with yourself and you let that sit in, like you digest that and really take that in and believe that, it's not a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing because then you can let go of you putting something out there and thinking that, oh my gosh, the whole world is watching this one piece of content or this one decision or the one time you raised your hand in a big meeting and you're scared you're going to make an idiot of yourself. No one cares. Whether you crush it when you raise your hand or you make the best video ever or you flop and it's terrible, people go on with their lives. They're worried about themselves. They've got their own challenges and problems personally and professionally. They're moving on. It might be a split second where they laugh or say something, but then they're gone onto the next thing. So that was a big one for me. It's like just letting go of people really don't care that much. It's a positive thing. The other thing I would say is that you got to operate from a place of values, internal values, not external validation. I call it validation instead of validation from the external. Meaning that if you're going to go take if you're going to take action right now, you're going to do something, right? You're going to put out a video, you're going to speak up in a meeting, you're going to make the cold call that you're scared to make. You have to think, if you're scared in that moment and you're faced with the fear, you have to look inwards and say, what are my values? Do I value going for it even when it's tough? Do I value getting outside of my comfort zone? Do I value making a positive impact on other people? Let those be the decision makers for your action instead of looking out at the world and saying, what if it fails and Johnny thinks I'm an idiot? What if Tina thinks I'm the worst ever? What if the client hangs up on me? What if the video flops and no one sees it? those things shouldn't determine your decision. Your values deep inside within you should determine your actual decisions. So I think when you combine that nobody really cares in the first place, and then secondly, those external validations should not be your decision maker. The internal validation should be. Once you can wrap your head around those two things, you're in a pretty good spot.
You got to coin that, man. Validation
Validation. I should,
instead
man.
of validation. Alex B Sheridan. I love that.
Trademarked.
Yeah. Oh man, this has been amazing. So let's say a B2B seller is watching this, or dare I say a company is watching this, right? And they're thinking, hey, we really got to get our video content going, right? There's a lot of opportunity here. What's the takeaway for those folks?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to get started, right? So you got to get past what we just talked about, the fear of putting yourself out there. Talk to so many companies that are like, we're going to start our content strategy next month or next quarter or we're going to push it. I'm like, you're never going to start it. Like there's never a perfect time that you're going to magically slow down and this window of opportunity is going to come up. And actually, even if that did happen, starting to create content when everything's perfect and you're slowed down and things are great is actually the worst time to start. Because once you start and then you're going to hit a challenge, you're going to hit a busy time in your business, hopefully, or you're just going to be faced with challenges, you're going to hire people or whatever it's going to be, then it's going to be tough to create because you only created when it was so easy and you had all this extra time, right? So you got to get used to creating even when things are crazy. And what helps you through that is systems and processes. I've got videos scheduled over a month out. People think I create videos all day. I don't. Once a week, I'm creating, I spend 30 to 45 minutes. I create 90% of my videos. They go through a system and a process. They come out the other side edited and boom, we're scheduled. So you got to have that. But the other thing I would say in terms of the actual videos is you have to obsessively focus on your customer. This is what most people get wrong with content creation. They just think about me. What can I get from it? Let me send out a little post, but really it's a sly way of like plugging my company, or plugging what I do and my services. People sense that shit from a mile away. So you have to go out there and just literally give. Even before the show, I was like, you're asking me questions. I'm like, dude, the only thing I want to do is just provide a tremendous amount of value for this audience. It's the only thing I care about. And so if you think about that, if you have that mindset, you'll be top 1% coming into it. If you do videos, on top of that mindset, you'll be 0.2% out of everyone that's creating content right now, especially on LinkedIn. Most people just don't have, they're scared to go for it. And even if they do go for it, there's not that 100% commitment to truly serving and helping and adding as much value as they can to their audience.
So good. You heard it here first, folks. If you are not following Alex B Sheridan on LinkedIn already, definitely do so. His video content is one of a kind, and I don't put that lightly. Alex, why don't you plug something with the audience before we hop off?
Dude, the best way if you liked what you heard here and you want to go deeper, the best thing to do is check out the podcast, Brand in Demand. We drop a new episode every single week. It's what I just talked about, but add 30 more minutes and then add Q&A from people just like you asking questions. And I answer the questions as truthfully as I possibly can. And then also with that podcast, there's a live event. The live event becomes the audio for the podcast, but you can actually attend any of those live events. You can show up whenever you want. Send me a DM or an email. If you go to our website, you can sign up there. But we'd love to have you part of the live events and contribute.
Brand in Demand, folks. You heard it here first. Go check out Alex B Sheridan and Impaxs Marketing. Thanks so much for hopping on today. This was fantastic. I know that every single person that listened to this from front to back just got a lot better at producing video content. Thanks again, Alex. We'll see you next week.